Yes. So for tonight's one, we're going to be talking to two of our very own from Citygate. So I'm going to call up to the stage Dean and Trish. Oh, give them a big round of applause. So tonight the general question was about how can we make money? So for tonight we said we're not going to do a preach. We're going to bring two of our own, and we wanted to bring some of our business owners up onto the stage. All right. So those of you that didn't know, like including myself, Dean and Trish are involved in a business, and I don't want to steal any of their thunder, but I'm going to just start off by just letting them talk a little bit about their business. I think we've got a little picture which we can put up as well. And I'm going to let you guys take it away, where you can just talk a little bit about your business before we get into some questions, so just to give people some context and understanding.
Just to say, we work for a family business, and
I think they said take the mic.
Okay, and it was started in 1902 by my paternal grandfather, and it's still thriving, and which is prosperous and growing after 122 years, so it's quite something. And my grandfather and my father and myself, we've always put God, or shall we say Jesus Christ, in charge of our business. And to this day, all our directors are born-again Christians, so it's wonderful. So majority of our staff. So that's a picture of the building, which was built by J.T. Ross, which is one of also those flourishing firms, still flourishing today. You know, they're 100 and whatever years old, and they built that in 1939. And it's still, that building is as strong, not a crack, nothing in it, you know what I mean? So it's amazing. It stood the test of time, yeah.
Do you want to tell them where that building is?
Yes, it's 51 Milne Street. So that's our Durban office headquarters. We've also got a branch in Johannesburg, which was started in 1952. Yeah. So both of the buildings we own, yeah.
And do you want to give us the second picture, Josh? I don't know if you want to speak a little bit about this, Dean.
Okay, first off, we don't make musical instruments, but our business, the business that we work in, was started as an industrial supply business, which sounds pretty boring, but we basically are, one of the things we supply are plating chemicals and technical advice to people who plate things. So that instrument you look up there, it's shiny as a result of being probably gold-plated. We provide that service in terms of chemistry and how to plate to businesses, engineering businesses, obviously automotive and the like. One thing I thought that would lead into is that they say that when the gold rush happened, the first people to become millionaires were the people who sold them the shovels and the picks, rather than the ones who were picking up the gold. So in terms of starting up a business, sometimes you don't focus on what you see in front of you, but how you can help people who are in the business you might be interested in serving.
Okay, so now that we've got some context a little bit about your business, we're going to just lean into some questions. So naturally, I know you didn't start the business, but could you tell us maybe what your current role is, and it's just some of the challenges you face in your role and how you overcome them?
Yeah, so I'm I'm the CEO and have been since 1988. So I was like very, very young, and I have had huge responsibility. But I've had a most amazing team of absolute experts. So the people who work for us are some of the best chemical experts in South Africa. So it's like quite something that we have, and I think it is crucial to have the right people in the team. Yeah. When you say about, was it challenges or financial things you were asking me? Okay. Yes, one of the challenges, I'd say, you could say, like mistakes we made. One, we represent an overseas company, and they were saying we should have more coverage in the Cape. So we decided to open a branch in the Cape. And the amount of effort like we put in, I was flying down, doing things we got, everything was perfect. Everything was, but we had also like the wrong person running it as such, and we had to actually extract ourselves from that, and then rather concentrate in our key areas, and it was such a good decision ultimately. So we took it's a lot of financial costs, but we more than gained up by just concentrating on the things that we're really good at.
I think that's a very good point you made. At the start, you said the majority of your staff are Christian. So, I mean, is that like an HR policy, or how do you implement something like that?
No, some were Hindi and they've become Christians by just witnessing, you know. And no, it isn't really the case. It's people have just, over the years, I think, sort of turned to Christ just, I think, through example, you know. So, yeah, it's amazing. Very blessed. We're also surrounded by lots of churches where we are. We even park in a churchyard. In fact, we've got 4 churches in our road. You know, they aren't always there, but they use, like, rent upper parts of the... but we've got the Lutheran church right in the corner, so whether that's also been a key influence as well.
So one of the questions I wanted to ask is, can you give us... what role did networking and mentorship play in your success?
Okay, I'll put that on to Dean, because I think he's
Because I'm such a big networker. No, it is important within business to network, but I think it's also important to look to see who you are. And we're fortunate in terms of Patricia's mentioned about the people that work for us. And it sounds very hackneyed, but the people in your business are your most valuable asset. And fortunately, although I'm not a networker, we have employed people who are very good at networking. And I think it comes back to the fact that as an entrepreneur or being part of a business, you don't necessarily have all the skills, and you have to recognize that, and you have to obviously combine and collaborate with people that make up for the things that you don't necessarily have.
I think maybe for some of us who don't know what networking is, because sometimes people just throw that word around, do you want to just maybe share a bit more what networking is?
That's a bit of a struggle, but I think networking is basically trying to garner influence through people that potentially will have a benefit to your business. Speaking to Luana earlier, and he probably would give a much better answer of what networking is all about. As mentioned earlier, not always for initial gain, but just having a base of relationships that you can call on at certain times, which also entails being part of being the person who is called on as much as always expecting something from the people that are in your network.
I think
I could also
very
add,
good.
like with mentoring, I was very blessed because from the age of like 21, I just got my degree, but then I did do a BCom part-time. I must have been very skilled with the people because I got 100% of stats at varsity for my final exam. But I think I sat with people, and my dad and everyone at Moitz in the boardroom from 10 o'clock to 10:30 every day. Came with a silver tea set and everything, and those people mentored me. I was with the directors. So I was mentored, and the most acute, it was amazing, and I found that such a blessing. Not to say that they were so keen to listen to what I had to say too, so, and I also have been very blessed by having, even like as a woman, but having very strong and very educated and leaders, women. One was a headmistress of Devonville's High School, my mum's sister, and the other one was of Wickham Collegiate, and they all hang around Oppenheimer, and all these people did really well. But I had those people around the table, which was quite something, yeah.
So I think that's a very good point. I just want to sit on that for a second, because I know for some of us, if we're sitting there, maybe we don't have our own business or we're employed by someone else, so it feels like, okay, there's not much benefit in being mentored or building up a network. But even in my job, so most of you know, I work for SPA, and they let us go on training courses. And the one training course was called networking. And I signed up for it because the courses are free. And they pretty much gave the examples that Dean and Trish gave. Obviously, they spoke for about 4 hours. And the one thing they said is that, well, not the one thing, is that, next time you go to coffee, Brendan, the lady would say, her name is Frances, and she happens to be a Christian lady as well. She says, don't just drink your coffee. See who else is having coffee. Introduce yourself. Speak to them. Ask them which department you know in, they work in. Next time you see them, at least you'll be able to say, hi, Luan, I know you work in this thing. How's things going there? And then over time, you actually have something in common with them. And eventually they may work with someone else who you know. And you can ask them, do you know so-and-so? And then you start building up a rapport with them. I'll use as an example. So there was someone leaving our business. There's an email that gets sent out. And I see, certain person, Andrew's leaving. So I said, Andrew, where are you going off to? He said, I'm actually leaving SPA. I'm going to work for some American companies to develop apps. He says, they pay the South African guys really good money because they're cheaper than the Americans. So I said, cool, and chatted to him briefly. And there's someone else I know who goes to another church. His name is Greg, and he's always telling me he's looking for some IT work. I said, well, Greg, I know someone who's leaving our company, and he's doing this type of app development. Would you be able to do that? He said, yeah. So before the other guy left, Andrew, I chatted to him. I said, I actually know someone who's leaving. Could I give him your number just so he could chat to you, and you could maybe give him some advice? And he said, yeah. Sure. So then I connected Andrew and Greg. Even though I'm not very close friends with them, I was able to use a bit of my network to help someone. That doesn't mean in the future, if I need something from Greg, I'm just going to say, Greg, you owe me a favor now. But maybe I've helped someone, maybe I've done something. And in the future, Greg is probably more likely to remember who I am, or if I need to ask him for something, he may potentially be able to assist me. That's kind of networking, how they explain to us in a secular way, where it's almost like our Christian values, where we want to help people and bless people and not always just be concerned about our stuff and what we can get from others. And obviously your business wouldn't have been so successful, like you said, if you didn't have the right people around you, because you can't do everything. And you've mentioned a few people already, like Luan. So if people are looking for mentorship, I'm not saying everybody go to Luan, but everyone has their different skills here, and the more you get to know them, the more you can learn. Okay, if I need some sort of advice or skill, who can I speak to? Who can direct me? Cool. So now that you've been so successful for such a long time, what skills or qualities do you believe are most important for young entrepreneurs? There's quite a few youngish people out here, or people that may be looking to start a business.
I'll just do one-liners. Strive for excellence, not perfection. Because otherwise, you can, perfection means stress and that, but just try to do, like I was brought up, try and just do your best. And also there's sort of almost a feeling of great satisfaction when you do your best. You know what I mean? It's sort of, it's not only pleasing others, but most importantly, you pleasing God. And then the other one was take care of your reputation. It's your most valuable asset. You know, people think, oh, you know, I can do that. No one will see me or whatever. But I know who I'm accountable for. But in any case, so you almost, I'm not saying you're on show, but you represent your company or your organization. So it is important. And then also learn to listen, that often opportunities come, like you just say, through networking. And if you listen carefully, let alone to the still small voice of God, but if you listen carefully, you can pick up in most incredible information. Well, that's what I find. I've learned so much. I learn so much every single day. Even today, I learn so much.
Can you
just
give us
through
an
other
example?
people.
Yeah.
Networking, listening to what they have to say. Yeah.
Why don't you share something like a story like that? I think that will help.
No, it was, I just do. I have, thinking of what I had today, it's just, it's like sometimes when, it's like even when people short deliver or do something wrong or do something like that, just by speaking to people, you can understand why that happened or what caused it, and you can solve so many problems immediately because you know what caused it. It was someone did something in a rush and they forgot something, but it's just by learning before you not shout or overreact, and you end up sorting out for everyone, make everyone very happy. You know, the end result is good because you listen to what each person had to say, whereas otherwise it could be a conflict situation, you just dissolve it, sort of type of thing. You know, it's if it's not deliveries or whatever it is, yeah. So it's so crucial to listen to people, and then also say you should never get up on what you really want to do. You know, some people often settle for second best, but you know, God expects you to go high. You know, so you must go high. You know, don't be mediocre. And then the other thing is in business and in family relationships, remember that the most important thing is trust. When you trust your staff, the people you work with, it's like your own family. There's sort of a sense of well-being for everyone involved. So I always think it's so crucial. And then the other thing was become the most positive and enthusiastic person you know. That passion in business is everything. And I think that's what I've got. I mean, Dean knows I'm passionate about my business. And I still am after, I mean, being CEO since 1988. You know, I'm still motivated, and it's not like I have to, someone has to motivate me. I am passionate about it, yeah.
So, Dean, tell me about being married to the CEO.
I don't think that's relevant. It's not.
I think, judging by the reaction, I think they'd like to know, how do you support a wife who's a CEO?
Yeah. You see, just now I was passing her water, doing things, keeping the wheels oiled. No. No, I would just say one thing is within working relationship is obviously trust is important. So it just makes life so much easier, being able to not second guess the people that you're working with, and obviously particularly between ourselves, that is important. And it's to have a servant heart. You know, when Patricia was talking earlier, it just reminded me of the instruction we have within the Bible about always trying, obviously referred to slaves, but even as ourselves, we still, in a sense, not a slave to our customers, but I'm there to please. and within working relationships, even though I might be relatively high up in the organization, if I'm doing something, even if it's for staff that work much lower down, it's not really a hierarchy within our business, but I'm serving them in that role. And I think never to lose sight of that.
Yeah, and how do you keep office politics out of your, when you get home? Is it business all day, even when you go home? I see.
I think we came up with not a rule, because occasions you will talk about business. But the separation of work and the life outside of work, I think, is very important for people. And I think, particularly for entrepreneurs, it's often one of the things that they realize is very important. So I know people that have worked from home for maybe years, and they just realized that that's not been so healthy for them. So even to the point that they would go out and rent premises just to have that separation is something I've seen as very helpful.
That's why we play golf. Yeah, that's also, so Dean and I we do play golf, and we're actually playing on Friday, sort of thing, so for pleasure, so it's actually, so you play together as well, so it's not just about work, so we have the greatest of fun, and traveling together, everything, so we're very blessed, yeah.
You started off by saying that you have Jesus at the center, or Jesus as your number one. How do you run your business and always keep that at the front of your mind in your decisions or in your planning? How does that play out in reality? And then sometimes we can say things like, Jesus is this, but how does that work? How do you bring that in?
I often find I'm chairman of the company, so I have to do a chairman's report, and I've got other shareholders who are atheists and whatever, and I write there, I thank Jesus and God for everything for the success, for another successful year in business, sort of thing. So I write it down in paper, so I'm bold enough to do that, and I will continue no matter if they disapprove. It's who is ultimately the head, so I write it. It's published every year. Because one of the things I would say is like that whole thing, you've got to be in business to survive so long, you've got to be bold and courageous. I've had to, and it's not like it's easy. I go to battle, I'm at war, I've had to, like even with some things that people will, like customers may do something wrong with their own business or tank has been sabotaged. I mean, I remember having that sort of case, you know what I mean? And then they try and tell me, we're not paying our account, you did the chemicals wrong. And I know, with regard, that was not the case, and had been where you walk into a boardroom, and I'm not exactly the tallest people, and you have about 6 people over 6 foot walk in, and it's quite intimidating, and you think, how are you going to face this? But beforehand, you just have to do something, get something out the bag, and I did something out the bag, sort of thing, and Jesus, I got the answers, and they ended up in that meeting not only taking away what they wanted to, like almost sue us for, but they paid our account in full. And I can only thank God, because what happened, that's another story, but the timing, I had every answer, I don't know where, it was just incredible. And the problem is I knew the truth, and what was said was that, and we won the battle. Yeah. So we do. It's not like smooth running every day.
You answer as well. No, I think what Patricia spoke on also helps to another factor. It listed a number of things that are important for entrepreneurs, but being brave or courageous is also top of that list. I mean, in that situation that Patricia spoke of, first off, God came through with the answers, but like 5 minutes before they were needed, which is, you really feel reliant on God in a situation such as that. But also, the situation she was talking about was something which was a technical subject, which is not the role that Patricia played within the business, but the technical people were the ones who were talking about paying out the claim the soonest. So obviously takes you to a level of courage that maybe you don't even realize you've got within yourself. But it's just a question of having the faith to press ahead.
So I'm gonna round up now. I think the one last question that I did want to ask was, looking back, would you have done anything differently? And then 2, from what you've explained, there's a bit of a succession plan at the company, and how do you plan for someone to take over you as CEO?
Yeah, I'll answer the last question. Who's going to take over? I don't know, but one thing at this stage, well, you know, we have got plans, you've got things, but it's not something I will divulge. But one thing is, I just must tell you a story. In 1952, when it was the company's 50th anniversary, my grandfather wrote a note, and we had it in the photo album to be opened by whoever was head of the company celebrating our 100th year. Now, he was a man, he was such a godly man, and just he had the faith that that company was going to, and I had the privilege of opening the note. 50 years, everyone wants me to divulge, but it's something I cannot divulge, but he knew, God must have spoken to him, yeah.
So do you have a note for the next CEO at 150
I know,
years?
that's what everyone asks. That's also something I'm not going to comment about yet. But one thing, because I thought, you know, that note was put into the photo album of all the pictures of the 50th, and they had the most beautiful gowns and dresses and things like that. And like my father had said to me, you know, if anything happens, there's this note in there. So I wondered if it wasn't someone else or would it be me who else had got, but so it was like I was there, you know, to open. So I thought that was, amazing, But you say about succession, at this stage, I hope that we'll have a lot of oomph in us to go for, like my grandfather at the age of 84 was still working, and he had done 4 business calls on the day he died. So I've got a long time still. But I'll know when to step down, though. God will tell me. But one of the things I want to always say, that what we said, be bold and courageous, because having your own business, you do have to be bold and courageous. But I was thinking with Joshua 1 verse 9, I always take this to heart. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.
Thank you. I've got my mic. So thank you, Tina and Trish. Thank you for sharing. Let's give you a round of applause. Yeah, so I know normally we split up into groups, and we have a question which we have to answer for ourselves. So we don't necessarily have a question, but I think it'll be great if we can. Well, one, we're gonna pray for Dean and Trish, just for, you know, your business, your succession, for God to bless you. I mean, the fact that you're changing lives and that people are actually coming to the Lord in your business because of the example you lead, I think is an amazing testimony to hear. And if it wasn't for this opportunity, maybe many people wouldn't have even known, the good work that you're doing. Maybe lots of people already know that, and but I just want to say God bless you. And I think let's just pray for you first. Yeah, is that fine? So Lord, we just thank you that even when we're going through the Overflow series, Father, that we can just hear the testimonies of Dean and Trish and their company that's over 100 years old, Father. And we know it's because of you, that they have you at the center, Father, that in every chairman's report, Father, you are mentioned, Father, that you are the key to their success, to their blessing, Father, for all their staff, Father. And we love that there's no hierarchy there, Father, for we are all equal in God's kingdom, Father. And we just pray, Lord, for the years to come, Lord, that the business would be successful, Father, that you bless Dean and Trish with many years, Father, to pursue the calling that you have upon their life, Father, to be able to create jobs, to be able to create wealth and income for others, Father, that they be able to make sound decisions, Father, that you fill them with wisdom and that your Holy Spirit would guide them, Father, even as they network, connect with people and spend time together. We pray that you bless them, Father, in their marriage, in their home, in everything that they do, Father. Thank you for the blessing that they are to us here at City Gate as well, too, Father. And we just pray, Lord, for that spirit of entrepreneurship and the ability to create wealth, Father, just to flow through for all of us, Father, in all the areas that we have, Father. In Jesus' name, amen. So I know thank you guys. I just want to see, is there anyone that has any questions specifically for Dean and Trish that they'd like to ask? Well, I'm putting you guys on the spot, but I'm just want to see. Of course, Luan, do you want to come to the front? Or do you want to just speak? Just shout it out.
As you're talking, what I'm just thinking of, obviously everybody's got their own opinions, but you've had the vulnerability so that they can look after their own family as well. How's that question? Everything. So it's not just a perspective of entrepreneur, but the work of developing a team of business. What have you taken from there?
So you may say like, so one of the guys who still works for us today started in 1961, just in the lab. So he was a lab guy, just doing something like that. And then he was also trained and mentored and, he had the academic qualifications and that, and then he went out on the road. And to this day, he is a director. And he is this is what's so incredible. He's going to be turning 80 in November. And when COVID was on, I'm just saying, so he's done very, very well for himself. And you know what I mean? So he started with nothing, but he drives Mercedes, and so does his wife, and whatever. So he's done really, really well. And wonderful Christian. And when COVID was on, we had hardly been 2 weeks into COVID, and we get a call that one of the mines wanted something that we actually, believe it or not, could supply them, or they needed. It was crucial. So we got special certificates to be able to operate. Now, he was up in Joburg, and they couldn't, because of COVID restrictions, you couldn't get the other guys, they couldn't offload. A container came through from overseas. They couldn't offload it. So he did a whole container. It was 25 liters. And he did it in 2.5, 3 hours. Did it all himself. But I'm just saying so we had a lot of the people have come from down below and have led the company in various aspects, So they've done pretty well, and, we also have had a pension fund. I was on the Durban Chamber of Commerce, the pension fund, and that sort of thing, but we belong that. And people had died, and they've managed to get houses and things like that. So it's sort of, they've prospered, So, right across the board,
I'd just speaking to that same question. I think what Patricia spoke about talks to that nothing is beneath anybody, no matter the fact that you might be a director or a big cheese, whatever you want, doesn't mean you can't be involved in what would be seen a menial task. And I think that's important to being successful within business. I think the other aspect that was spoken about of how can I start a business, a lot of things happen by chance. I mean, Brendan was talking earlier about passing on, using the network to pass on an opportunity to develop a business. But if you look at that person where they were, they've obviously at some stage developed a skill that is worthy of somebody wanting to employ them. And so you also can look at opportunities, even if you're just working, just a salaried person within a business, is that you can always be developing yourself to be of value to your employer, which comes back to this question of what's expected of us within the workplace. But also, you can have a payoff for yourself. I'm not saying it will, but this is, I don't think there's any other way. I mean, I was fortunate myself in having opportunities like Brendan has had to be trained. I don't think I was ever mentored by anybody, but I was able to watch and see how people conduct themselves within the business, how they make decisions, how they got through tough times. And so as much as you say, well, nobody's told me how to do that, you can always look and see what's happening around you.
Thank you. That's a very good question, Lon. I think I just want to end on a scripture. I think it was something I was reading this weekend, and something that always helped me in my creative focus is that everything we do, we do it unto the Lord, whatever it is. And the thing which I appreciate about what God's done in my career, even though I'm not the CEO, but He's taken me from where I started off. Cleaning the TVs. I don't know if you used to go to Macro before. They used to have these massive TVs. So when I used to work in the holidays, part of the job used to be, you shine the TVs and you switch them all on in the morning, and then you switch them all off in the afternoon. It used to be one of my jobs. But I always knew. And that is like, in my head, I'll be like, even though this is the task I've been given, I can do it with the best of my ability, because I'm not doing it for the people that are coming in and stuff. I'm doing it unto the Lord. And, one day, it doesn't matter if the day didn't come. If you have to do that your whole life, you could still be content in it. But if you do something with excellence, the Lord can lift you up. And He's done that for me, and I think He does it for a lot of us here. And we all have different stories. Today, I think it's just a blessing that we could hear, the story of Dean and Trish today. So I hope that's touched you in some way, inspired you. For those of us, maybe starting our own business there, taking risks. For those of us that are working for a boss, or that are working for someone else, that we can do it with excellence, because there's still opportunities that may present ourselves if we make ourselves available and we show ourselves worthy of the calling that we have. Yeah, so I hope you've been blessed. Yeah, so thank you, Dean and Trish, once more, and God bless you.